Hi everybody, this is Sam Zitten from JSU of St. Louis here with this week's moment of inspiration on our Torah portion Emor, and also a discussion of a special mitzvah that we have right now called Sfirat HaOmer. So in this week's Torah portion, we have a whole bunch of commandments discussed, and one of them is this very special mitzvah, this very special commandment called Sfirat HaOmer, that we're supposed to count the Omer. What does that mean? What is the Omer? So the Omer actually refers to a special offering that was brought in the temple during Pesach of barley. And counting the Omer means after that, on the second day of Pesach, we start counting 49 days, 7 weeks of 7 days, until we arrive at the holiday of Shavuot, which is the day that we received the Torah. So we have this process where we're going from the time we left Egypt until the time we received the Torah at Mount Sinai. This 49-day period represents a very special time in Jewish history. It represents a time when the Jewish people left Egypt on the lowest of the low as a spiritual level, and then experienced miracles and salvation and amazing things. And through that whole process, they were able to elevate themselves and become elevated spiritually until they were capable of receiving the Torah at Mount Sinai. Today, we still follow that commandment in the Torah to count those 49 days. Many people also have a special focus this time of year to work on self-improvement. Just like the Jews leaving Egypt had to elevate the level of personal and spiritual perfection in order to be able to merit receiving the Torah, many people take it upon themselves during this time of year to work on themselves spiritually. It's tough to know how to do that sometimes, but there's a very interesting insight and a little bit of a rule of thumb that's given to us in this process in the Torah. You see, the offering at the beginning of this process, called the Omer, was made of barley. The offering that's given in the tabernacle or in the temple at the end of this process on Shavuot was made of wheat flour. Now, have you ever had a barley cookie or a cake? Probably not. Maybe you've had barley in a stew or a soup, but it's generally not used for very fine baking because it wasn't the kind of thing that humans used that for. In the times of the Torah, all the more so. Barley was mostly considered animal food. Wheat, fine wheat especially, was considered human food. And so there's a very subtle insight here between these offerings that we're being told to bring. At the beginning of this process of spiritual perfection, we have the offering that would go to animals. And at the end of it, we have one that would go to people. Self-improvement in the idea of the Torah seems to be acting less like an animal and more like a person. You've heard the phrase act like a mensch just means a person. That's the process we're talking about here. Every commandment, every mitzvah we're given in the Torah, on some level, is about teaching us how to act less like an animal and more like a person. The ability to take our desires and drives and channel them in a positive manner through the teachings of the Torah allows us to make the most of this world. And that is a very simple idea that we can grab hold of to know how to get the most out of this life. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. I hope you have an amazing Shabbat. I hope you have an amazing rest of your Sfirat HaOmer. And if I don't talk to you before then, I hope you have an amazing Shavuot as well. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.